I think the reason that I moved on to 6-string bass is because I had always wanted to play 6-string bass from basically like my earliest bass playing days. I saw a lot of cool bass players playing 6-string basses and I thought they were awesome, and I wanted the range for chords that you just can't do on a 4-string bass because you can only play 4 notes simultaneously on a 4-string bass, whereas a chord like this with 5 notes, you need at least one more string. And yeah, you could get a 5-string bass and restring it with a high C, but I also like having this low B string for some more kind of thunderous low end. So I want to have the high range for the chords, melodies, for doing bell tones or artificial harmonics, and I like having the low range because obviously it is a bass. In summation, a few good ways, definitely not an exhaustive list, but a few cool ways to utilize the range of your 6-string bass more. Chords, riffs that maybe play in 1 octave on your electric bass or 2 octaves. Try expanding it to 2 octaves or 3 octaves. Just add another octave to it basically and make the riff have more notes. You don't necessarily have to make it longer, maybe you just play it faster and you fit it into less time. Another thing you can do is tapping. Another thing you can do is using harmonics in your chords. You can do artificial harmonics and or bell tones, whatever you want to call them. And there is a lot of other stuff that you can do. I mean, you could write a riff that jumps between low notes and high notes, or requires maybe certain harmonics that you only find on a 6-string bass. Yeah, I'm still exploring it, so I don't have like an exhaustive list of answers. I don't think anyone really does, and I think if someone tells you that they have an exhaustive list of answers, then they're probably not telling you the truth. I think that's a cool thing about an instrument, is that there's always more to discover. There's always more to explore. I played 4-string bass for a really long time before I ever played a 6-string bass. I think I was playing for like 12 years before I got my first 6-string bass, and I was really excited about it, and it was also kind of like a wake-up call that I did not know my 4-string bass as well as I thought that I did. That particular 6-string bass, which was a really nice 6-string bass, had a bunch of issues, and I ended up trading it in, and I got a 4-string Marcus Miller bass. And then I went to music school, and I learned that 4-string Marcus Miller bass inside and out, because it was my main bass in the band that I was in college, and also it was the bass that I was using in all my classes for my first year of music school. And I still used it a whole bunch, even though that is highly frowned upon in jazz school in my experience. I genuinely had ideas on the electric bass that I wanted to do in that setting, so I just did it anyway, despite all of the sort of kickback against it. And there's actually a thing that I did on my junior recital with my 4-string bass, where I had a friend sing this tune, and I played chords, and everyone really liked it. A lot of teachers liked it a lot. They're like, wow, that was really cool and unique, and I haven't seen anyone do anything like that here. I got a lot of nice reactions to it, which was cool, because I was kind of finding that it seemed like the default with recitals was kind of to show that you could improvise via soloing, which is cool, but I didn't really just want to inundate people who were coming to my recital with tons and tons of bass solos. Obviously, I took bass solos, but I just thought, hey, wouldn't it be cool to kind of change it up and show that I can improvise in ways that are off the beaten path? More interesting to me than just taking a bass solo on every single song. I thought that was a cool way to show variety, and luckily, other people thought so too. And that was with my 4-string bass, and I learned like all these different exercises. I learned all my triads. I learned like everything all over my 4-string bass, basically. And then when I got my next 6-string bass, which was a cheaper 6-string bass, the one I had before was like a $1,200 or $1,400 bass or something, and it was really nice, but unfortunately, because of the neck dive issues, I had to get rid of it because I didn't want to like injure my wrist or something on my fretting hand. Then I got the Marcus Miller bass, and then anyway, so I got this 6-string bass, which I think it was like $500 or $600 or something like that. I jammed with a couple coworkers at a place that I was teaching, and they were like, "Oh, whoa, sick, bro! Like, you have to come to jam sessions with us and like open mics and stuff." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds cool." And then I ended up spending the next many months just kind of going around to a bunch of different open mic sessions all the time. And the thing that I would find is I would go to an open mic, and then people would ask me to play on their stuff because they didn't have a bass player. I would go up there, I'd start playing, and I just kind of listen to them and figure out what the chord progression was, or like something that I could play that would suit whatever they were doing. And then, I mean, that was pretty much it. Basically, someone would call me up on stage to play on their songs. I would go up there and just kind of figure it out as I went along, and then I would be up there for the rest of the night for like 3 or 4 or however many hours, playing on everybody's stuff pretty much. And that went on for a bunch of months, like every week. That gave me a lot of experience playing my 6-string bass. And then I eventually sold that bass, and I got this bass, which is my favorite 6-string bass that I've ever played. A friend of mine I was chatting with, I was asking him if he knew of any 6-string basses that didn't weigh like as much as a tank, because the $600 bass that I had was pretty close to the weight of my Marcus Miller bass. The Marcus Miller bass I've never actually weighed, but I feel like it's got to be 14 or 15 pounds or something. Like, the thing is a tank. And the $600 6-string bass I had, I think, was like 11 pounds, which is still pretty heavy. And my friend recommended I get a bongo. And I was like, okay, I will. I found this one going for a really good price, because these basses normally are around like $3,000-ish. I found this one for slightly over $1,500, and there's like nothing wrong with it at all. So that's cool. It sounds good. I've had to get a little work done on it recently, but it was not expensive really, and as you can hear, it sounds really nice. Something else that I should mention is you can do like chord riffing. I've written a couple songs that I've released on Spotify. One is called Hurdles, and I'm kind of playing a chord progression like this. As the chorus in the song Hurdles. I do a whole bunch of different stuff. I'm doing some double thumbing stuff. I'm doing the open hammer thing that I kind of touched on earlier. I'm doing chords. I'm doing chords with harmonics. I'm doing 4, 5, and 6 string chords. I'm doing finger picking, and I have chords where I'm using an open string in addition to fretted notes and natural harmonic notes. So like that part goes like this. Then I'm in the chorus. I go all over the range of the bass in that song, actually. I am up here, I'm down here, I'm here. This part is like improvised down here, so I don't play it the same way every time, but it's something like this, like one of the times. Or whatever. But anyway, in thinking about the future, I do a chord riff, and it's in the chorus, and it goes like this. I do that a couple more times. I could be chilling or I could be naked. I could be concealing or I could be greedy. I'm thinking about the future. I'm trying to place my statement. The present is a gift, but I'm about exchanging. Then I go into the verse part.
Whatever it be, got me switching scenes like I think I need a change in my identity. I'm not who I wanna be, but I know who that is. So I'ma take this opportunity to become the real me, see? I'm so bored, just like you. Yeah, I got nothing to do, so I'ma take the pill for an hour or two. Watch me groove, I got an attitude, I'm just a regular dude. But you know that I can rap and I can play the bass too. Did you know that walruses can whistle? I know, man, walruses.
There's a bunch of different parts in that. That song also has a ton of finger picking and kind of riffy stuff and a bunch of different chords. And I'm moving all around the neck. I will say though, when I was writing both of those songs and other songs that I have yet to release where I'm singing and or rapping and playing my bass at the same time, my goal was never to use more range on the bass, really. That's not really how I was thinking about it. It was more like creating compelling sounding music that suited the mood of the song that I was writing at the time, and it was expressing what I wanted it to express. But one thing in terms of range that I did think about is there are parts where I want my bass to sound more like it's fulfilling like a chordal role, like obviously here. And then in the verse of that song, I'm going. I'm doing stuff like that, which is kind of more funky and groovy. So I'm creating like contrast between a bunch of different parts in the song to make the song sound kind of more compelling, because I try to put my voice and my bass at the forefront of my music. And then everything else is just kind of like nice details around that. I might sound more like riffy sometimes in a funky, like bass player-y way. Sometimes it might sound more like mellow chords and things. I might be playing melodies and chords at the same time. And I do move around the range of the bass, but I'm not doing it just to move around the range of the bass. It's more like that's just where my ideas happen to go. Range-wise, though, there is one thing that I think about, which is, for example, in Hurdles, in the pre-chorus, I could have done this part like... right? But instead of doing this A here as a harmonic, or doing it as a fretted note, I chose to drop it down to the open A string, because then that way I'm getting a lot lower pitch there. It kind of keeps the bass driving thing intact while I'm doing these higher notes that I'm finger picking with my four fingers, like my index and my middle and ring. I'm playing the thumb on the bass notes, and then my four fingers, index, middle, and ring. I'm not using my pinky here. My four fingers are kind of dealing with the more melodic content of the chord. Versus that sounds okay, but I mean, this A and this F and this C and etc. That's like the equivalent of me doing this. Right? Whereas if I had the A higher up, it would be like... which isn't bad necessarily, but, you know, I wanted more bass, because it's a bass. And I don't have another bass player that is playing bass underneath my bass, so I'm covering all that stuff, keeping the bass line as low as it can be, but not necessarily as low as it can be or as high as it can be all the time. You know, obviously it depends on what exactly you're playing and how it sounds and how that all fits together. I try to make everything gel and mesh in a way that sounds really good. But I've been talking for way too long, and it's going to take me a really long time to edit. So you should go on Spotify and you should check out Hurdles. I'll put a little snippet of Hurdles right here.
You gotta get grounded, connect with the earth, stand in yourself, let the universe be heard. Your heart will tell you it's true if you listen, but whether you do is up to you. I know which one I choose. Hurdles come and go, I'm gonna go next level. Grab the power up, get back and jump. I can't be stopped, I'm on the come up. This James Bobcats can't stop me. I'm gonna put the run up on the finale, but it won't be easy. That's what keeps you interested, pushing boundaries, constantly reinvesting in myself, and away from love.
And you should check out Thinking About the Future. I'll put a little snippet of that right here.
No need to stop recollecting, reassessing connections. Thought you were in it to win it. Let's go, let's get it. I could be chilling or I could be making. I could be consuming or I could be greedy. I'm thinking about the future, I'm trying to place my statement. Yeah, the present is a gift, but I'm about exchanging. I'ma be quitting this, scrolling down the screen shit. Look at me flipping it, just cause it's a sick trick. Look at me, how I be doing this differently. Take a look at you too, do you just see what you wanna see? Cause I don't know about you, but as for me, I'm becoming the man I always wanted to be. I'm flush, fly, high five, no I'm not a vampire, but you can resurrect me any night you're feeling the fire.
And if you listen to the bass line or the bass part in those songs in general, I think you will hear what I'm talking about. There is some quiet guitar in the background in some parts of Thinking About the Future, but basically 100% of what you're hearing, even if you think it's a guitar, which a lot of people have told me sometimes that they do think it's a guitar, it's not a guitar. It's my 6-string bass, which is technically a guitar, but it's a bass guitar as opposed to a regular guitar, is what I mean. In Hurdles, there's no electric guitar, acoustic guitar, or anything. It's all just Bahamut. Hey, what's up? Definitely check out those songs on Spotify. That is Hurdles, Thinking About the Future. Check out Pixel City, Digital Bass Battle Stage. All these songs are littered with tons and tons of 6-string bass. I'm all over the range of the bass. You're going to totally dig it. You're going to hear lots of ideas that you can, maybe be inspired by, and maybe you will find some cool new things to do with your own 6-string bass, or otherwise extended range bass if you have a 5 or a 7 or an 11 string, or however many strings you got on your bass. Definitely go check those out. Follow me on Spotify, and I will see you next time. Peace.
I know which one I choose. Hurdles come and go, I'm gonna settle. Grab the power up, get back and jump. I can't be stopped, I'm on the come up. This James Bobcats can't stop me. I'ma put the run up on the finale, but it won't be easy. That's what keeps you interested in pushing boundaries, constantly reinvesting in myself.